So here we are, the second Legacy Collection. Man, it looks kind of empty compared to the first collection. We can at least get the Super Nintendo version of Mega Man and Bass. Seriously? Oh well, I gotta talk about what I got. And what we have today is Mega Man 7 and 8, the only games in the series that aren't 8-bit, because the next two games will go back to this style, and I'll get to that when I get there. But they seem to be the only games for a while until Mega Man 11, where Mega Man actually evolved the design and not look like a derpy dwarf that screams when his butt gets scraped. Mega Man 7 was also the first time they got out of the NES for the classic games. Mega Man X and X2 did predate this, and I gotta get this out of the way. Compared to those games, it's kind of disappointing. I love Mega Man X, to the point of calling it one of my favorite games, so playing this game really feels like a downgrade compared to that game. But I guess we'll go ahead and talk about the plot, because a jump in technology comes a jump in storytelling, especially with Wily now behind bars. Do we have a new villain, or nope? Wily had some decommissioned robots that activate when Wily is missing, and they help terrorize the city and break him out. Rope technology has failed us! Mega Man Roll and new character Otto are driving around when they see the rampaging robots, and... Okay, that's pretty funny. Really, that's it for the story, and while I said new technology is capable of improving the storytelling, I think Mega Man 6 did the job better. Dialogue is certainly an improvement, but that's about it. I was expecting to make fun of the bad spelling from the original game, but to my dismay, they fixed it for the Legacy Collection. Free of any willies, unfortunately. Though Wily is still a total willy, but I'll get to that soon enough. Now that we are in the Super Nintendo, graphics and sound are much more advanced, and I will say the game looks fantastic. And the music is pretty sweet, though the instrument quality can get a little irritating at times. My favorite is the boss theme, however, since it sounds more distinct compared to the rest of the OST. As much as I like the soundtrack, many of them don't really stand out all that well, and again, the quality can get annoying with certain songs. Now, everything from Mega Man 5 and 6 does return to some degree. The rush adapters return, but you need to locate the rush tokens scattered across 4 of the stages. Rush Coil returns as a starting tool, as well as Rush Jet that you need to locate in Cloudman stage, or in Otto's shop, and I'll talk about that in a quick second. The new addition for Rush is the Rush Search, which you can dig into the ground to get some goodies. Only use this in front of the Wily portrait in Shave Man stage for one reason only. Oh, baby, come to me. You can get both of these items in the shop as well, but you need to find Otto's Hyperbolt in order for him to sell them, as well as an upgrade to Rush's adapters, which you can also find in the wild. So how do you get the ability to buy excessive amounts of lives, E-Tanks, W-Tanks, and the new S-Tanks that refill your energy and health energy? Bolts. You'll find a lot of these bolts lying around, but they can also be dropped by enemies, and when you find the right areas, you can max out the bolt count in the span of 2 minutes. That kind of makes this game a little easy. In fact, I can say this is the easiest game yet. But this isn't the only reason why it's easy. Let's get to the game as a whole. The level design can be fairly basic. Certainly feels like an NES game retooled for the SNES. There are some things that can be a little too bullshit. Turboman can buzz off with these tires and spikes. But for the most part, the design is fine. But the Robot Masters, oh boy, they can be downright pathetic with the right setup. Even a fully charged Mega Buster can stun these guys. It's hilariously sad. And when you have the respective weakness, they drop like flies. I kind of feel sorry for them. Junkman and Turboman make me howl with laughter whenever I see them stagger. It looks like they just got possessed, especially Junkman. Like, just look at him. On that note, the weapons are not too bad. The Danger Wrap is a nice little trap item. The Thunderbolt, Freeze Crusher, and Flame Reel are like the Mega Buster with added elemental properties. The Slash Claw is a nice melee weapon. The Noise Crush feels a little pointless, and the Wild Coil only really works on the ground, even though I hear it can be charged, but I have no idea how that works. But my favorite weapon, which sounds crazy considering what I've said about these kind of weapons, has got to be the Junk Shield. I tend to stay away from these, mostly due to how ineffective they tend to be. But not only does each garbage piece count as one hit, making it easier to use over time, but it can be used as an attack with combined properties of the Leaf Shield and the Power Stone. I also like the fact that Mega Man and Light explain how the weapons work, though I wonder why Mega Man goes for 10 seconds just to ask Light a question he clearly knows the answer to. A lot of these weapons are a great way to deal heavy damage, and with the combination of Rush Adapters, Mega Buster, and the amount of restoration items you can carry, the majority of the game can be a little too easy. Until the end. As always, you have to get to Wily's castle, starting with these rotating platforms and faulty lighting that makes the platforming nerve-wracking without the Rush Adapters. And then, oh yeah, you. This is Bass and Treble. We see them here and there, and Mega Man for some reason trusts him and considers him an ally, when clearly he looks as evil as he can get. No shocker, he was made by Wily to kill Mega Man, and with Mega Man being as dumb as a rock, Bass is invited to Dr. Light's lab and trashes the place. Character-wise, he was okay until he learned that he's a one-dimensional dickwad with the only goal of kill Mega Man. I like how they keep the music motif with bass and treble, but he's also called forte in Japan, which is neat enough, but treble in Japan is called gospel. Gospel. A dark-colored evil wolf with a scowl is named after a music genre associated with religion. That's about as dumb as a guy with an arm cannon being called Rockman. In Wily's castle, we get to fight him twice. Ain't that fun? But if you got a full storage of E-tanks, you're not losing. Even then, you'll probably won't need them at all. Except for the rematch, it's cute how he tries. Jeez, Wily has some kind of hard-on for Gutsman. The amount of times you see Gutsman in Wily castles outnumbers the stars in the sky, I swear. You also have this turtle, which is the best boss in the game, but his ramming attack is so difficult to dodge. Actually, no, I take it back. I did like this Oni mask thing. It got annoying at first, but I learned its pattern, and he wasn't too bad. And then you got the Wily machine, which is actually kind of easy, even with these mini machines getting in the way. But when you beat him, he goes to plan B. F you, f you, f you, f you, f you, f you, f you. This fucking boss is the worst boss I've ever faced in a video game. Everything this asshole throws at you is nearly impossible to avoid. Completely impossible if he's near the floor where you can't go under him and slide out of the way. The orbs inflict so much damage, and if you get hit with the ice orb, you'll get stuck and will most likely get hit by the electric blast. If you don't have any E-takes in your pocket, you automatically lost. You will not avoid his attacks enough times before you take him down. Also, his weakness is the wild coil. I mean, it's not top spin, dumb, but for a weapon that's mostly ground-based, that's still stupid. You finally beat Wily and...
Oh, shoot. Is he gonna kill Wily? I mean, anyone would go insane after that fight, but... Sure, go ahead. Shoot him. Spill his guts. Stomp in his spine. Use his intestines as a frickin' rope and hang him on the wall.
I do not regret anything I said. But no, Mega Man won't kill him because of those pesky laws of robotics. Though I find it funny how they made Mega Man this edgy for the West, since Japan doesn't have this Die Wily crap. Now that we end Mega Man 7, man, this game got bad at the end. The game was perfectly fine for the most part. It had some fun parts and the occasional frustrating parts. Most of the weapons are pretty fun to use, and the Robot Masters, as pathetic as they are actually memorable compared to the earlier games. But when we get to the Wily Castle stuff, it started to get super irritating, and I wanted to stop, and I actually did quit during the Wily fight. 3 hours is enough for a man to go insane. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the first game to move on from the NES, I'd say that this would be as memorable as Mega Man 4 and 5. Games that I can only say are okay at best. I know people who say that this is their favorites, and it's sad that I can't really agree with the praise.
The next game we're going to be talking about is Mega Man 8, and from what I've seen, this is the most polarizing game in the classic series. Some say this is the best one and is their favorite game in the classic series, and then there are some people that really don't like it at all and is just a step back from Mega Man 7. For me, I personally think that...
Recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
This game is frickin' amazing.
Okay, let's get this masterwork out of the way. These cutscenes are so horrible. Bad voice acting, sloppy dialogue, awkward editing, and the fact that we've been saying Wowie's name wrong this whole time. Thank you, Elmer Lights. At least the animation and art style are great for PS1 standards, but I wish they touched it up for the Legacy Collection. I guess you can only do so much. But yeah, only one Super Nintendo game jumping straight to the Sony PlayStation afterwards. It kind of makes sense seeing how 7 was made in 1995, when the PlayStation was introduced and quickly started to dominate Nintendo at the time. And I guess they wanted to hop onto the better hardware. I don't really blame them, honestly. Can you imagine playing Mega Man 8 on a Nintendo 64 controller? I'd rather not. The story's a little different this go-around. We start off with two robots fighting in the depths of space. One clearly good, one clearly evil. In fact, the evil robot is filled with...
evil energy.
Yeah, you couldn't be a little more creative than that. Even Robot Master weapons have better names than that. Even Thunderbolt had more effort into its name. Anyway, the hero robot defeats the evil robot, and it crashes into Earth. Meanwhile, in Monsteropolis, two robots are fighting.
Hey, Bass! Why must they fight you? We are not enemies!
Not enemies. Bass was built by Dr. Wily to kill you. His sole purpose is to be your enemy. Are you so desperate to find the good in Mr. Edgelord Killer Robot here? Also, we got another name wrong. He's not named after music. He's named after a fish. Kind of explains how pathetic he was in Mega Man 7. The fight is cut short as Bass gets wrecked by a falling elevator, and Dr. Light calls Mega Man to invest a meteor that landed on an island. That happens to be Wowie's secret lair, funny enough. Wowie takes the meteor, and you gotta find him. And going into the Robot Master selection, both this and 7 for some reason, allows you to only pick 4 Robot Master stages and releases the next 4 once you've taken care of all of them. It's kind of an odd change, which never comes back after this, so I assume people didn't really like that change. After being the first 4 Robot Masters, we check on the hero robot we found at the beginning of the game, and we learn about the evil energy. The robot wakes up, destroys the energy, and leaves the lab, leaving Mega Man to chase after him. We fight him, telling the stranger that he means no harm and wants to talk, but when he loses, he escapes thanks to Proto Man's interruption. Proto Man tells us that the robot is heading towards Dr. Wowie's lab, suspecting that he might be working for Wowie. Mega Man goes over, gets ambushed, Rush gets knocked out, and we hear the best voice work in the game. As low of a bar that is. No, seriously, not only is Dr. Wowie perfectly casted, but he also sounds the most normal out of all of them. Like the voice actor wants to sound believable. Certainly more than Dr. Fudd, and... For the love of Frank West, if someone doesn't shut him up, I will! The hero robot saves him, thank you God, and he reveals his name to be Duo. I don't get it. And really, he doesn't do much for the story other than the origins and the ending where, after beating Wowie, the evil robot absorbs into Mega Man and nearly dies. So he retrieves the energy from his nether regions and leaves. Really, that's a lot more detailed than the other games, and it's welcome to be sure, though I'm sure I'd be more interested in it if the cutscenes were a bit more, professional. I have a feeling they were like this on purpose, but they did make the story a little more obnoxious, and I think it could have been more interesting than that.
Thankfully, everything else is a lot better, and by that, I mean the graphics. This might be my favorite looking Mega Man game in the classic series. The colors are vibrant, everything is beautifully animated, the Robot Masters have really memorable designs, for better or worse, and to top it all off, the music. This comes very close to Mega Man 2 and 6 as my favorite OST. Its only setback is that some tracks can feel a little repetitive, and some get ear-grating while listening to long periods. Wily Castle 1 immediately comes to mind. But overall, it's a nice selection of tunes. My favorite, funnily enough, is actually the stage select. It's catchy, but also very relaxing at the same time. It's almost hypnotic. But on the topic of stages, what do we have to look forward to? I'll give the game this. Some of the stages are very cool in terms of themes and gimmicks. The standouts for me are Astro Man's maze-like cybernetic world, Grenade Man's explosive factory, Sword Man's Aztec ruin level, even though it doesn't match his theme of a fire sword, that's kind of an odd level choice, and Clown Man's Toys Town aesthetic with boxes of varying effects depending on the pattern they present. So if I had to pick my least favorite, it's not even a question. Frostman's stage can blow me. The snowboard is the worst auto-scrolling level I have ever come across, and the signs that tell you the action you need to use gets absolutely annoying, especially if they appear several times in a row. It's like they want you to have sound during these sections, but funnily enough, the moment I turned the sound off, I got the second section finished after the first attempt. Speaking of torture, am I the only person that thinks half the Robot Masters are creepy as hell? I know every single one of you knows about Clown Man.
See you in my dreams.
See you in my nightmares. But I also found the likes of Aquaman and Grenade Man just uncomfortable. The moment I heard Aquaman makes me think he's going to shove his water cannon up my ass. I know there's an easier joke and you already know it. Grenade Man has a fetish for pain, there's no possibly, just listen.
I'll punish you! Splash bomb! Oh yeah! That felt good!
Astro Man sounds like he's embarrassed that Mega Man even found him. Search Man has 2 heads. Okay, but I like the fact that there's some kind of Safari Ranger with a rocket launcher. Okay. Ticket Man is a robot version of Falco. Don't change my mind about it. It's Falco Lombardi. And there's that one line that makes him sound like George Lopez.
Here you go!
I like the fact that Frostman is 2 to 3 times the size of the rest of the Robot Masters, even if dodging him can be a bit of a pain. And I like how there are these Mega Man ice sculptures, and he just crushes them. I don't know why I like that so much, but I do. My favorite is definitely Sword Man, though. Not because he has a good fight, far from it. He dies via bubbles. But he's such a sportsman, and when you beat him, he compliments you, even if my tactics are as cheap as a Snickers bar. And you know what? The weaknesses are pretty easy to figure out this time. Swordman uses fire, so I use water. Searchman and Frostman are weak to the Flame Sword, and Frostman is also weak to the Flash Bomb because of the sun-like properties. And since Clownman is usually in the air, you can use the Tornado Hold to tangle him up.
Ow, what have you done to me?
I was hoping to have you hopelessly trapped until your death. The ones that aren't as simple are Tangle Man's weakness to Ice Wave, Grenade Man's weakness to Thunderclaw, or Aquaman's weakness to the Astro Crush.
Make sure you keep the weaknesses in mind though, because the damage meter has increased in this game from 28 to 40. So either prepare for their weakness or anticipate a pretty long fight. The weapons are hit and miss, honestly, but many of them have different uses. The Thunderclaw, which doesn't really resemble a claw at all, is used as a grappling hook for these pins on the wall, though they're pretty uncommon. The Homing Sniper is a reliable homing attack, the Flame Sword is a good melee weapon, the Tornado Hold is a great way for vertical traversal, and the Astral Crutch is a fantastic screen nuke, but it doesn't have a ton of ammo. Other weapons just aren't that useful or even that powerful. That's including the weapon you get from Dr. Light at the beginning, the Mega Ball. You summon it with the weapon button, but you have to press it again to kick, and it's also just a diagonal attack. It's just more practical to use the Mega Buster. The one thing I love that this game introduces, and I don't know if this is the only game that does this, the weapons are set to a separate button and doesn't replace the Mega Buster. That means I can have the Mega Buster on standby while using these weapons. That's a cool idea. I hope this is a thing in later games because it's so convenient. The other gameplay changes are weird. So Rush comes back, but although the Rush items are completely different. Rush Bike is not useful at all. The Rush Question gives you a random item, or just do nothing. Rush Bomber shoots bombs onto the ground, and the Rush Charger rains health and weapon energy, and honestly that's the best Rush item because tanks don't return in this game. Yeah, a staple since the second game was completely removed from this game for some reason. Thankfully the game isn't that hard to a point you'll miss them. The only deaths you'll have are bottomless pits most of the time. And you'll get an upgrade to increase your max starting life, so if you die at the end, you'll be fine for the most part, unless the beginning of the stage screwed you over. Damn you, Wily Castle 1! Before we go there is one change that I don't like at all, and that's how they changed the bolt system. Instead of having them be drops, you have to locate these giant bolts, like the Hyper Bolt in 7, and some of these are annoying to get. Though on the second part of the game, they're actually not too hard at all. You'll find enough for the upgrades you'll want, though, like the Returning Balancer, the Life Extender, and the power-up that removes knockback. I just saw this in editing and realized I never got this. Why did I not get this? Instead, I got this automatic shot which lets you shoot while charging, which I thought would be a good idea, but it's not practical at all. The latter upgrade would have been a better option. Well, let's talk about the Wily stages now. 2 hours. This stage took me almost 2 hours. I hate these stages so much. And if you thought this was the worst of it, how about a boss that is only weak to the Mega Ball and the ceiling columns make aiming the balls frustrating as hell? This boss was not something I wanted to see after having to deal with hell on a snowboard. I mean, a snowboard in hell. The second castle area has this air shooter segment with Rush, and you can also have Otto, Beat, and Eddie help you with the onslaught. This was another thing you did earlier in the game, and this is tons more fun than the mother frickin' board. The boss is annoying as piss, though. The third area is standard platforming, and this was where Tornado Hold and Flash Bomb helped the most, and the one time I ever used the Ice Wave outside of Tingaman. You fight Bass and Gospel at the end, and Tornado Hold away! We end with a typical boss rush, a fairly easy Wily machine, and Wily Castle 8. I hear a lot of people say that this is worse than Wily Castle 7, and... Are you insane? Wily Castle 7 felt like getting hurt was guaranteed, and if you didn't have E-Tanks on your side, defeat was inevitable. Yeah, this is difficult, but with the help of Rush Charger and a weakness that is more practical than the coils, it feels a lot more reasonable.
So rating Mega Man 8, it's actually the opposite of Mega Man 7. With Mega Man 7, I thought it was a great game for the majority, but when it got into the end, I just didn't really like it that much, and it started to frustrate me to an obnoxious point. Mega Man 8 started a little rough, but it started to get a little easier and a little more pleasant during the end. However, both games do have great level design, great weapons, amazing music, and awesome visual. And with that said, there are only 2 more games for the Legacy Collection, so next time, we'll be talking about Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10. For what exactly? And we'll figure that out next time. So, until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and next time,
We'll find Dr. Wily.